Welcome back, all of you, to the next lesson about a repository of architecture. So, designing is basically trying to first observe what people have already done with different design diagrams. So, as I told you, a number like 51, there is no logic to it. If you have observed some around 51 different design diagrams yourself before you get started as an architect, you get a clear piece about how people came about trying to think to connect these different workloads and definitions together. And you get that thought process from different things. So how do we do that practically? Okay, as I told you, we're not going to get too much theoretical, but just see certain repository, certain approach so that it will register. And if you just go into the resources through the resource section, you would be good, right? This is this 80-20 Pareto rule. Like, you know, the 80% of the things already, but if you just fit this into the overall scheme of things, you become better. So what is the journey we already have taken? We just got to understand what's the persona of an architect. We looked at some project definitions and workloads concept. Now we look at repository. So let me share my screen now and take you to an important piece of information which every architect should know. It's about just searching about AWS reference architectures. If we just search this, you will see a very important, I could tell the most important piece which is there, which is called as an architect center. So if you are an aspiring architect with AWS, this by itself is enough for you to cover most of the concepts. Unfortunately, if I just look at some certifications, which is like solution architect professional, you will see that informations are really good architecture, but the best place if you are a practicing person to really understand architecture is the architecture center. So what you should observe here is what I'm going to cover hands on. If you come here down, you will see that ignore everything. You will see that there are a lot of these diagrams which are put together. You can filter them by a lot of content types. Okay, you can filter it by methodology, etc. So I would recommend that you filter this thing by reference architecture diagram and you apply this filter. So what happens here for you is you get some nice diagrams, okay, and then you can just look at these diagrams, some of them. So let me pick few of them for you. Suppose I search for some connected. I'm just taking some examples so that you will be able to. So there are some connected airports, connected mobility platform, connected mobility data lake. Now you could use these examples. What I am showing you, practice it yourself. So link will be there in your resource sections. Then you get here, spend maybe 1 day, 1 week into these. Let's take one example. So if I click connected airport, you're going to get a diagram here like this, which typically talks about how you will be able to produce something like an architect. So the lesson what we're covering is the repository of architectural diagrams. So if you are doing a design, the easiest way for you to really observe an expert, if somebody is already done a piece of work for you, you can just observe them. So if you really make this diagram big, there are some observations you can do. So I'm not expecting that you must know this diagram from a sense of how exactly it works to the square, but understand your job role as an architect will be involving drawing these design diagrams. For that, you'll have to understand what is the definition of a project, what's a workload, what do you do as an architect, and then you start looking at this diagram. So take this number from me. Look at 51. I made students go through 51 diagrams. Sometimes it creates some secrets in terms of looking at different patterns, and you can look at it from different domains so that look at. So in this particular diagram, if you carefully observe, it tells you step by step what the project is doing. We'll ignore it. But if you carefully observe, you'll see that the different services of AWS are in different color. Okay. And then you will see that there are systems which are connected through different arrows, like telling like you're having different in an airport, a concourse, restrooms, lobbies, taxiways, baggage systems, which through a protocols are getting connected to IoT because it's a device world. Okay. And then it comes back from the device world to the IoT core, and then it moves from there into different segments like API gateway, which is nothing but the integration piece, and then it starts moving into different dashboards, etc. So connected airport is an example where an IoT is a workload, AIML is another workload, then there is analytics here. A typical good project for you to refer to. It means a customer is a novice who's not going to talk about anything on AWS or IoT AML. He's going to talk about a domain. There are different parts of the airport which has to be connected together into a framework or an infra, and then he requires you to really build your predictive analytics, prescriptive analytics, and top BI analytics on the top of it. He also wanted you to really look at it, how easily you can create dashboards with different tools. And that is what you will see some 30-35 services out of 230 covered in these diagrams. Is a fantastic way for you to really know how you build yourself as an ace architect. Imagine you going through diagrams like this, around 40 to 50 or 51 of them. You'll get a broad knowledge. Okay, here is a requirement, this is how this was produced, and then you can dig deeper into why is it green color, why is it yellow color, how do I draw these diagrams. But for the requirement, how did the architect produce this, what kind of skills did he have, etc., etc. Okay, so broadly understand this particular resource, the reference architecture diagrams, has got the repository of architecture. Okay, there are got a lot of things in this page, but just focus here to understand. Now, if I take pick one more thing from a data lake, you will see that this particular diagram is trying to talk about a connected mobility data lake. So if you are from an analytical domain, you will view this diagram and how you are producing this. Now, there can be a lot of ways to learn. Practically, if I'm going to teach anybody in the last 10 years, I've been always been teaching in this style. To tell them, like, you observe the diagram, let's explain this diagram, let's go deeper into the diagram. If I go through one diagram, it will become one entire course. That's not the objective. The objective is to show you that this is a line which you should understand. You draw the road in terms of how you can take these diagrams and understand them. So there's a connected mobility. Here you can see most of them are from the analytical service by using a lot of these AWS service. Okay, you also tend to learn about this through this. So if I pick one more thing, which is a smart farm on AWS, which looks really interesting for me, you will see that it talks about a diagram about how you can create smart form by using a similar kind of architecture. So reference architecture is a very important piece, the most important piece according to me, while you're building the architecture. So as we saw the tenants, okay, what does an architect do? Let's pick up one to really look at something what people would like to see today. Maybe something on generative AI. You'll find some of them there also. But I'll pick something different for you, like something which everybody likes: are connected restaurants. So if you go to a connected restaurants, it will talk about how do you connect different pieces of the restaurant, like kitchen, restrooms, dining, similar to an airport, but now it's a restaurant which is getting connected. And how do you build these tools? So my point is, if you keep seeing certain patterns again and again and again, you start tend to build. Now imagine, like, if I've worked with Azure and GCP, you have similar kind of resources, and the methodology I'm trying to tell you, the sequence I'm telling you in this lessons, is a great way to smartly navigate into an AWS or any of your cloud career as an architect. So the to summarize, you will find different filters. So you just have to go into the architect piece. The resource section will give you the link. Go to the filter. You filter it by the reference architecture diagrams. Okay. And there are other pieces which you can filter. Currently, don't focus everywhere. Focus on this. Look at as much as diagram as possible. You will get a feel about what I'm trying to talk about. You will connect them together, like, okay, why are these different services used? Why are different things covered and colored in different ways, etc., etc. Okay. Now let's take one example. Imagine we are trying to take an example of a connected vehicle reference, like typically for people who understand about modernizations, how you can modernize the workload. Okay, moving from connected car. We all know what is connected car, driverless car, and all these cars. So very, very important today. So how do I take a vehicle gateway and you're able to connect it. Now, I'm going to teach you some very important, simple tip here. How do I draw this diagram? Okay. Imagine you're an architect who's been given this project about working on a connected vehicle, and you want to modernize this by using some protocols, etc. And I assume that you are from the IoT domain. Forget whether you understand this diagram well, forget like the methodology you will take is that you should really know for that particular project requirement, which came as a project definition, you must know IoT is a key workload to really look at. If once you decide it, you should go into the AWS console and see what are the different pieces of IoT components which you should be using. And once you know that, then the foundational component like containers, everything catches up. And that's what the diagram is. Imagine you know these pieces, how to do it, or you work with a fellow architect who've been doing it, and you will learn it over 1 month, 2 months, 3 months to 6 months. But the key thing is when you go in type AWS diagrams, okay, look at what you get is you will get that reference architecture diagrams. You'll see that a lot of these items. There is a very important piece here called architecture icons. Now, why you should know this? If you're seeing a diagram like this, you must be curious to understand why are these colors different. For example, all the analytics part is put in a violet color. You'll see all the compute, the storage is there in one color. You'll see different colors. This is called color coding, so that when a client sees, he knows like know what part of the components are getting utilized. It's a representation. So, as a design person, you must know that you can represent the diagram more clearly, concisely, and you're maintaining the different kind of versions and revisions of these diagrams in a repository, etc. It's a very huge space. But I'm trying to look at like in the world of cloud, in the world of AI, ML, in the world of today's world, how quickly you can really understand this concept in a short time. So when you go to the architecture icons, you will see that you can download this particular tool. There are different tools which are given to you. That's something which you can do. You can also go and download an icon package. So once you click the icon package, you will see that there is a diagram tool which you will get. You if you can open that, it's a zip file. Now, what is the use of this particular file? If you expand this package file, you'll see that there are different group icons which are being given to you. So, what this entire piece of information gives you is it talks about how do I really draw. If you want that inputs, this is the place. So there's a PowerPoint given to you. You can go and draw. You can actually download it. You will get the toolkit also, which is available. Now, if you download this Microsoft PowerPoint toolkit, you will be able to open the toolkit to see how do I really draw these pictures, which is very important. So if you just look at it, this like you can see that it will show all the different types of the systems, like how do you read the guidelines. A lot of people, okay, 5 in 10 or 6 in 10 always look at, when I look at architecture, it is all about well architected framework. But to me, 30% of your time you should spend designing, looking at the project requirement. What are the AWS services required? How do I put them together? How do I draw nice diagrams, etc.? So read this page again. It will come in the resource section for you. Don't worry about it. If you download this or when you're watching the video, you can do it yourself as I'm doing with hands-on. So if you draw the architecture icons, okay, unlike Microsoft or other OEMs, AWS doesn't have a tool which is helps you to draw these diagrams. So they provide you some recommendation here, like you can use any of this diagram tool to actually draw. Okay, you can also use Visio, but I would recommend that whatever AWS recommends, you stick to it. I have used multiple tools. Sometimes it's customer driven, sometimes it's something which I select based on draw.io is something which I've used. I've used Cloudcraft, I've used Creately. You can pick and choose, experiment with something, and then you will be able to look at it. So this this particular lesson, what we are covering is the most important heart of the architect. Knowing 51 plus diagrams. Imagine why I'm giving a number. So if you analyze 51 different diagrams in AWS, I'm sure you'll be a person who can understand what I'm trying to talk about. And then you start drawing one to yourself. Take a simple project and look at like how I can use the architecture icons to actually produce the diagrams. So by coming to understand this repository of architecture by design and looking at the design center, you really understood what exactly an architect's job. Okay, so just to summarize, as an architect is a personality. First thing you do is to look at what is the project requirement. That's a definition. Look at what workload coming in. Once you know that, before you get into the task, look at different architectural diagrams. Look at what are the different ways to draw this. Download the toolkit. Download this. Produce some diagrams yourself. You will be good to go. Okay. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.